It has been a very long time since I have filmed a video. Sorry if I keep looking off to the side because I'm filming on my phone. I wanted to film updates like pretty regularly, but once I got really into the first trimester, that didn't happen because I couldn't do anything. So I'm gonna go over my first trimester. I have all of my stuff written down here to go over and talk about now that I'm in my second trimester, which sounds crazy. I am 15 weeks and 2 days today, I think. It is November 10th. Yeah, November 10th. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about first trimester. Starting with weeks 4 and 5. Weeks 4 and 5 were the best of the whole first trimester. Finding out I was pregnant until like 5 weeks. That was like the sweet spot of the first trimester. So I had some cramping, which is super common. I was like starting to freak out about. If you don't know, I have a little bit of PTSD about first trimester stuff because I had a super early pregnancy loss back in December. I have a little bit PTSD based on that. So I was very emotional, not just like hormonal emotional, but because of that, I was just constantly worried something was going to go wrong, that I was going to lose the baby, and just all the stuff you think about when you've been through something like that. It just kind of ruins you from early pregnancy, which sucks, but it is what it is. So emotionally, it was pretty difficult. While I was super excited, that excitement would also kind of be hand in hand with a lot of anxiety, because I knew it was still super early and anything could happen, and it took me a while to get pregnant, and then with the early loss, I'm just not feeling great about that emotionally. Like, it took so long to get pregnant. I've had issues before. Why would it work out? Basically, like, nothing's worked out before, so why would it now? Which is a really terrible way of thinking, and it's very destructive. But that's where I was. Thankfully, I had lots of support. So that made like a huge difference. Aside from the emotional stuff, I'll get back to the physical stuff. I had cramping pretty consistently. Like almost all the time I had cramping from weeks 4 and 5. I was peeing more. That was a bit of an early sign, but then it kind of just got more and more. I was extra tired. Generally, I'm a pretty tired person, but I was a little extra tired. I was starting to get pretty bloaty. I would get very hungry, which was strange for me because I normally only eat like twice a day, if that. So that was a huge change to get used to, was having to eat like every couple hours. And I was like, this is weird. Because even though it was still super early, if I didn't eat every like 2 hours, I would start getting sick. Not very sick, but just like, ugh, like I don't feel super great. So to avoid that, I had to eat every like 2 hours. Pretty much every hour and a half, which was like weird. Again, I had strong smelling urine. That was an early sign. It just kept going weeks 4 and 5. And I also wrote down like I said, slight nausea, but not much at all. And then week 6 came around. Week 6 is when it all hit me. I had really bad nausea starting. Like, here's the thing about my nausea that I had. I got very sick, but I only threw up a couple times. So generally, as a person, I have a very hard time throwing up. Even if I'm super sick, my body has to basically make me throw up, or I'm not going to. Like, I will just choke it back as long as possible. I was just super, super nauseous for the longest time. Not the longest time, but it felt like the longest time. There wasn't much relief, so I feel like, not that it made it worse, because sometimes, like, even people who do throw up easier, like, they still get super sick, even when they are throwing up, and it just doesn't really make it better. So everybody's different, but for me, I was super, super sick, and it was just like almost constant. I work full time, so it's like, it was very difficult, especially with like having to wear a mask at work and being super sick. Like, having stuff like around my face when I'm sick in general doesn't make me feel great. And then that too, it was the worst. I would just have to go in the back and just like rip my mask off and just like take a sip of water, or I was gonna throw up eventually. There was like countless days where I would just like have to sit in the bathroom floor with the trash can until it passed enough for me to get back up. So it was rough when it comes to the nausea. So week 6, that started hitting. My boobs were sore. They were kind of sore from the beginning, but week 6 they started getting a lot more sore. Food aversions, hand in hand with the nausea. Food aversions like crazy, which I'm gonna do a separate video with starting the 2nd trimester, but it's still happening now. Not as bad, but it's still happening. Generally, I eat a lot of different things. I need some water, I'm getting thirsty. I'm not very picky. I can, pick a place, eat anything there, like, I'm fine. But since week 6, I have the worst food aversions. Like I said, it's gotten a little bit better now, but smelling food cooking, even if it's food that I liked, made me so sick. The smell of anything made me sick. The smell of soap, the smell of shampoo, my husband's cologne, like anything made me sick. It was awful. So food aversions, smell aversions, aversions to everything. I still had cramping going on. I started getting some lightning crotch, which that's super early to be getting lightning crotch, but I just figured it was because of stretching feelings and stuff. Everyone is different. So if people don't normally get it until like 2nd, 3rd trimester, doesn't mean you can't get it in the 1st. So yeah, I started getting random lightning crotch, which if you don't know what that is, it's just like random shooting pains that feel like they're actually in your vagina/cervix area. I started getting a few of those. It wasn't super often, but I just figured it was because things were starting to stretch. I started getting lots of stretching feelings low in my stomach, like below my belly button, starting to get in like my pelvis area. I'm rubbing it, but you can't see it. Here, I'll demonstrate. It was like down here. I started getting stretching feelings. I'll show you my stomach later. Lots of stretching feelings, some random lightning crotch, started just feeling things. So that started. I started having a lot of restless legs, which I have had kind of a history with anyway, if I get super tired and then I lay down. So I started having a lot of restless legs. Like, when I would lay down, I could not like keep still. My legs were just like constantly moving. It was super annoying. But yeah. Also, I'm not trying to be super complainy in this video, because I am super thankful to be pregnant, and I am super happy, and I am so grateful for this little baby. I'm just telling you what I was experiencing, and by no means does any of that overshadow the joy that I feel and like how grateful I am, because I would take all of that and then more to be pregnant and have a growing healthy baby. So just reviewing over my symptoms, not trying to be super like complainy, but even if I was, like, I'm pregnant, like, I think I'm entitled to a little bit of complaining. that was week 6. Emotionally, I didn't write anything down, but I was starting to feel a little bit, it's weird, because I was starting to have less anxiety because I started getting morning sickness and things were starting to happen. So I knew things, like my levels were rising. I knew that that was what's supposed to happen. But then again, emotionally, it was also hard to feel so bad and be sick all the time and not be able to eat anything, but having to eat every 2 hours. So that was a thing. 7 and 8. I still had some cramping. It was starting to lessen though. Still stretchy feelings, kind of down low in my stomach, but it literally felt like someone was like pulling my stomach from the inside. Was not as bad as that sounds. That's where my morning sickness started to kick up even more. So 6 was kind of like dipping my toes in it, but 7 and 8, it really kicked up to being pretty much all the time. Like I would wake up and I would have not even a couple hours, maybe an hour of like not being sick, and that was great. I was pretty much sick all day though, from the time I would wake up to the time I would lay down. That's just how it was. Still the same food aversions to everything. I started getting some more lightning crotch. Nothing super often, just like a couple times a day I would just be like doing something and then I'd just be like, whoo, what was that? Just random little pains up in there. My back started hurting more. Restless legs still just kept going. And then week 9 through 11, which is kind of a big chunk, but it was just felt all the same to me. Sick all the time, not wanting food ever. I was struggling a little bit when I was writing this, you could tell. Sore boobs still, minor trouble sleeping, still restless legs. Lightning crotch stopped about this time, so it only lasted for a couple weeks and then it kind of stopped. So that was about the same through week 11. Week 12, we're getting towards the end here. I had a huge emotional change. Huge. Now, I forgot to say, in the beginning, weeks 4 and 5, I was definitely a little cryy, a little sensitive. There was an instance where I really wanted chocolate chip muffins, specifically. And there was a mix that we would always get from Food Lion that was a gluten-free muffin mix. And I would get the chocolate chips and put it in there, and they were so good. That's all I wanted. So I stopped at Food Lion. They didn't have the mix. I was like, okay, whatever. So I got a different mix. Then I got home, I mixed it up, and I was like, oh, this doesn't look very good. I put it in there, and I was like, oh, this doesn't smell good. I took them out. They looked like cardboard. They looked so dry. And it just hit me out of nowhere. I started bawling because of these muffins. It was the craziest thing. Like, I had no control over it. I just felt so upset. These muffins were not going to be good. And then my mom had just gotten home from the grocery store, and she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, my muffins. I just started sobbing. That was like kind of the craziest emotional thing that's happened to me that didn't make a ton of sense, but pregnancy, what can you do? All the rest of it was just like random stuff. On week 12, I had a huge emotional change. Since the muffin incident, it hadn't been that bad. I wasn't super emotional, just dealing with like the anxiety and then like being kind of bummed that I was sick all the time. But week 12 hit, and I feel like literally on the day that I switched to week 12, I got so emotional and have stayed that way. I've stayed that way ever since week 12. Super sensitive, not necessarily to things pertaining to me, but in general. And then like watching YouTube videos, if it's something that's like sad or something good, I'm just a wreck. Listening to certain music, I was a wreck. Like just random stuff. Like anything that's slightly sad, crying. Just like all over the place. Anytime my back would be hurting a lot, sobbing. Like super sick, sobbing. Like that's just how I was. Super emotional. And it's still about the same. It's not just like on random. Like something has to like cause it, but I just get upset and start crying a lot easier. I mean, I don't stay like upset. I just get really sobby. Week 12, also nausea started getting slightly better. Like I would have days here and there where it was like not quite as bad. Also on week 12, day 4, I had the very first baby flutter that I felt, which if you've been pregnant before, you're gonna think that sounds crazy, but that's okay, because the first day I felt it, I thought it was like gas, because that's just what you think at first, most of the time. So I was like, that was weird, whatever. And the next day, I was in the car about to go into work, and I felt it again, but it was a lot more like distinct, and I was like, that was definitely not gas. So that's when I started talking to my mom, my best friend Josie. I'm like, I felt this, don't know what it is. And she was like, that's exactly what I felt when I first felt baby movements. And I'm like, that's insane. I'm not even in my second trimester. Crazy. But I was also reading, if the mom is like super in tune with her body, that can happen. And sometimes that like can just happen. With my mom, she said that she felt movement about the same time. So maybe it's like genetic thing. Also, it felt like the baby was sitting very, very low. So like around the same area I was feeling the stretching pain, that's where it felt like they were. And I know I'm not having twins. I just say they because I don't like calling it an it. And I don't know when I'm gonna announce the gender on YouTube. So we'll see. But yeah, I started definitely feeling movement on October 22nd. I have it written down. But yeah, the first day I wasn't sure. Second day I was like, I think I felt this. And then later that day when I sat down, I definitely felt a movement. I was like, that's not gas. That's definitely the baby. So that was the craziest thing. Week 13, last of the first trimester, depending on who you talk to. I'm just going to stop at week 13 in this video to keep it shorter. I said lots of movement. So the first couple days it took a while for me to start to feel it, but then the next week, like starting on week 13, I was feeling movement so much, like so much, almost all the time. And like I said, it felt like they were sitting very, very low. And I've heard that can cause you to feel more movements than if they're sitting up high. So I was feeling so much movement. This is the week we were actually on our anniversary little vacation thing. And we were going to eat somewhere, and we were in the car, and I felt the biggest kick that I have ever felt so far on this day. And I was like, oh my God. Or I was like, whoa. I said something, I don't remember. And it scared Micah so bad. And he was like, what's wrong? And I was like, that was the biggest kick. And he was like, oh my God. Like he got so freaked out, and I almost made him wreck the car. But it was the biggest kick. Like I could feel it from the outside, which again is going to sound crazy if you've been pregnant before, because most people say you can't feel movement from the outside until like 20 plus weeks. But depends on who you are, depends on who your baby is, all that stuff. I don't really think you need to follow the whole like rules, like no, there's no way you could feel it. Like there was no doubt about it. I could feel it from the outside. It felt like a full body movement, and I was like, what the heck? Craziest thing. Also because they were sitting so low, I had to pee a lot more. I had the urge to pee a lot more. It had kind of slowed down the peeing stuff after like week 6. I pee a lot in general as a person, so it's kind of hard to tell. But once I started feeling movements and noticed where the baby was sitting, I had to pee a lot more because they were sitting quite low. That is the first trimester. Once I started feeling movement, I felt so much better emotionally. Ever since then, I have felt so much better. I'm still super sensitive, that hasn't changed, but just generally, I feel a lot more positive because I'm getting movements and stuff. So that's a huge comfort, which I'm sure anyone who's been pregnant can attest to that. Okay, so I feel like I've been talking forever. I don't know if this is all gonna fit in one video. That's what's up. I will talk to you guys later. And yeah, see you guys later. Bye. So real quick, something I forgot to mention is cravings. I haven't really had any crazy cravings, but when I do have something that I find that I like, because I have so many food aversions, I'm like just taking that as a craving because everything else has just sounded terrible. So whenever I do find something that I like, I have it a couple times and then it turns into an aversion and then I don't want to see that food ever again. So that was super annoying. That thankfully is getting better, but I did have that for most of the first trimester. The only thing that I really craved was orzo salad. It's like a pasta salad. I made a huge thing of it. I had about 3 bowls in one day, and then the next day I was done with it. I could not have any more, and I was like, are you serious? Could not stand the smell of it. And this, for the first trimester, was a huge waste of money. Like, I would get food, be eating it and be like okay, and then get like a quarter or halfway through and just be done. Could not have any more. So that was rough, but I just wanted to put that in there because I didn't touch on the cravings turning into aversions situation. And all of my food aversions changed all the time. So I would, you know, have a snack that was decently good for me, and then I would have it too much, and then I couldn't do it anymore. Even some things now that I had a lot in the first trimester, like cheese sticks, still a little iffy with. Nuts, not really feeling. The aversions, they're still going on. So I just wanted to throw that in here.